Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and just like that, the market has come right back on up in XRP. Here's Chad Steingraber off to a great morning start for XRP, 303. We are now at 303-ish, 303, 304. I think I saw it get as high as 307. Welcome to crypto. That's why I keep telling you folks, the short-term ups and downs, that's not important. If you've studied and researched XRP like I have, all of this is noise, these short-term things. What I'm looking at is 3.75 trillion in the total market, and what's coming is 10 to 100 trillion dollars, and that's the fact, Jack. And so what I'm spending my time now doing, if I have stuff available, I'll buy XRP. If I don't, I just sit tight, strap in. But in the meantime, what I've been doing is making sure I was positioned. One of my partners is Caleb and Brown. I have XRP there. And what I do is I get free institutional grade custody. I get an actual person I can talk to. I emailed with these guys today, actually. And I can have an actual person. That is like earth shattering in crypto. I don't have to deal with a support line or a support email and wonder if my concerns are going to be addressed. I don't have to deal with all that. And I get the liquidity. They've got multiple liquidity providers, institutional liquidity providers, so I don't have to worry about my ability to cash out if I decide to do so. You can go to xrpwealth589.com. It'll forward you right to my page here on Caleb and Brown, and you click sign up today if you want to open an account. This made me laugh this morning. President Trump says anti-crypto Elizabeth Warren is a loser. I didn't need Trump to tell me that, but it's funny that he said it. And then this guy says XRP, an acronym for extremely retarded person, Robert Breedlove. And I said, you were saying, Robert, XRP's up 554% on the year, and Bitcoin's up 120%. But we're all retarded out here. You know, not to use that word or anything, but anyway. And then we've got these guys. They started out so well. You need to watch a good bit of this. Then I may fast forward to the end. Here, I mean, the delusion is unbelievable. But having been here for a while, I've learned that a lot of the Bitcoin maxi stuff is paid for delusion. And I'll get into more of that. I'm not saying these guys are paid for, but I am saying that 85% of the Bitcoin maxi crypto social media is. So listen to these guys. It starts out by them, you know, at first they're kind of joking about it, like, oh, XRP, and then they start, you know, reading factual things, and then they go right back to ridiculousness, like they just can't get it through their mind.
Yeah, I look forward to a compilation of all the talking heads saying golden age of crypto.
Well, you know what, Graham, speaking of a golden age, it appears to be a golden age of XRP. Should we talk about some XRP news?
A lot of bullish XRP news this week.
Yeah, really good stuff here.
Kick it off, David.
All right, so let's start by talking about XRP getting into this strategic reserve or like ETF space that's kind of been dominated by Bitcoin and then now a little bit into Ethereum. So XRP is getting into the ETF game. I don't know how to say this name correctly, but what did we call it? Teucrium, which is in
Canadian.
Here shortly, you'll be saying, what do we call it? BlackRock?
In winter hat.
Teucrium, which is an ETF issuer that has focused mostly on agricultural commodities ETFs, is now pivoting to digital assets, and they are very excited about the performance of their XRP ETF. It is the most successful fund in Teucrium's 16-year history, so they're already having early success with that. XRP in the ETF game.
And we are seeing entrance into the XRP corporate treasury play. We have two. First, meant to mention this week. One is Hyperscale Data Inc. So it's traded on the NYSE under the ticker GPUS. And they announced that they're going to acquire $10 million of XRP, and they're going to retain that exclusively on their balance sheet. Not a huge number, but it is an entrant into the XRP corporate treasury strategy play.
The next one is Wellgistics Health. This is on NASDAQ, ticker WGRX. They are doing a kind of two-pronged XRP strategy. First, they're going to adopt XRP as a primary treasury asset, but they're going to use surplus cash and potentially capital raises. So they're going to use cash on hand and maybe issue debt to buy XRP, but they're also going to implement XRP-based payments. So it looks like that this company is full in the XRP ecosystem and future.
Yeah, Wellgistics Health is going XRP aligned. Back to the markets, we have XRP futures at the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. They saw record-breaking growth in July. So with open interest peaked at $750 million, which is an indication of rising institutional appetite for regulated XRP derivatives.
It makes sense. I mean, this has all happened in the past week, right? So it's pretty crazy. Also announced this week is that Coinbase is going to launch an XRP perpetual futures. Hearing what Graham just said, this makes sense because there's obviously money in it. Coinbase Institutional is set to launch Nano XRP US perpetual style futures. This is an institutional grade avenue for exposure to XRP, probably aiming to capture some of the appetite that CME is obviously receiving from this.
Speaking of XRP and Coinbase, XRP trading volume on Coinbase has actually overtaken Ethereum for the first half of the year, at least, contributing 16% of all trading volume on Coinbase compared to Ethereum's 15%. And that's according to the company's...
The guy's shaking his head like, I can't believe it. And then they really go off the cliff.
There we go. They point to the progress of Ripple's stablecoin, RLUSD, and how there are some historical references in government documents that supposedly support the idea of the government adopting this technology.
Yeah, specifically there's a 20...
Oh, there's a lot of it, but let me fill these guys in. Ripple's applied for the Fed master account, which would bring, my understanding is it would bring RLUSD under the Fed. These guys, they don't want to look that far.
2015 U.S. Department of Homeland Security report where it's suggested that Ripple could serve as a payment transfer mechanism for U.S. dollars. That is often cited in these, XRP is going to take over threads.
Again, not to be the...
What they don't say is that there's no discussion of Bitcoin taking over for payments, no discussion of Bitcoin at the Fed with regard to payments, nothing, because you can't build a stable coin on Bitcoin. You can't tokenize anything on Bitcoin, and these guys know it, but they don't talk about it.
The wet blanket that I always am, but here I am being the wet blanket. Number one, the government has repeatedly said through various people in government that there is no plan for a U.S. CBDC. In fact, it's almost been said to be like...
That's just words. They're not going to call it a CBDC. They're not going to call it a CBDC. These guys, it hurts my brain to listen to these guys. Now, this is back, this says ex-Ripple dev, people were paid 5 Bitcoin to FUD XRP. Earlier today, he said that in the early days of Bitcoin Talk, the Bitcoin Talk forum was really the only place for Bitcoin people to get together back in the day. I think it was Reddit. You could earn 5 Bitcoin for posting FUD that XRP was centralized and a scam. And that, the source of most of the disinformation spread about XRP to this day. Yes, someone was DMing a bunch of people on there offering them 5 Bitcoin if they posted some specific FUD about XRP saying it was a centralized scam. If you look through the old posts, you will see discussion of it at the time, the brain rot of Bitcoin maximalists. And I said, against this backdrop, how many millions do you think have been spent over the last decade blacking out XRP from mainstream media and crypto media, lawsuits, FUD, SEC lawsuits, coordinated shorting, and then going on media saying you shorted and just don't understand XRP? Millions has been spent, and yet here we are. And then you got Fidelity. They are a participant in the Bitcoin maxi stuff. Altcoins can offer innovation and variety, but Bitcoin stands apart as a decentralized, secure, and enduring digital asset. Find out more. And I said it's going to be fun watching when Bitcoin becomes an altcoin, Bitcoin Armageddon. And then here's our old Ethereum guys, the Bankless podcast, sometimes called the Clueless podcast. I said grown men will weep, and it's not ETH. That happens to rhyme.
My case for, I don't like saying the F word anymore, so I'm not going to say it. But my case for like Ether taking the #1 spot, if you're going to make that argument, you would likely invoke these things. These like, well, the Bitcoin security budget runs out, the Ethereum, the quantum computing comes and makes Bitcoin unsafe, and then therefore naturally, ETH, which its investments into the long-term future, will take the #1 spot. How would that ever show up in your charts, or would that just be like this idiosyncratic move that's just completely unpredictable?
Yeah, I don't think that would be a very predictable move. Like, so if that were to ever happen, which I don't think, I mean, honestly, I don't think it will. But if it were to ever happen, I would probably be on the wrong side of that. Like, I'd probably be on the, like, constantly saying it's not going to until my face gets
being the F word.
Right, the flippening, right? Yeah, like I don't think I would ever say that's going to happen. I don't think that
it's your worst nightmare
will happen. I know the sort of all the quantum computing risks and stuff, and I remember people talking about that back in like 2017, and that's one of those things where it's like this constant fear.
It's a boogeyman that's on the horizon,
right?
It's never actually here.
Right. And imagine if in 2017, someone said, watch out for quantum computing. And then imagine if you just were out of the crypto markets for the last 8 years, right? Like that wouldn't
totally.
Like it might happen in the future, but there's certain things that you just can't worry about. And if you do spend all your time worrying about it, you'll never invest, right? Like you'll never invest. So quantum computing is a risk. But I would say if that risk ever were to play out,
Satoshi's a risk too, or the four of them.
My guess, look, I have I think I'm going to differ on my view here than what you said, because I think that my view would be that if Bitcoin were to die, I think it would be very negative for the rest of crypto.
On a short-term basis, but not once utility is actually in and flowing. And I've always thought in the back of my mind that could be part of the plan. Okay, we're going to go to daixrp.com, which is the Patreon. If you'd rather join through YouTube, click the join button below any of these videos. Or you can hit subscribe on X, and you can join. I do the full video plus extended video with no commercials in there. Okay, I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.